This is Training Game Podcast. Welcome back to our part 2 of our last episode where we talked about mental health and the effects of it in your life and also how to overcome that. My name is John Kioskarides, one half of the Training Game Podcasts. My brother here.
I'm Big John DePaulo. How you guys doing?
Thanks again for joining us this week. We were talking before we set this up, and I wanted to touch up on it before we get to that part of getting into what you were saying last week about being part of having it be like a boxing match before you get into the ring, quote unquote, with this negative energy and vibe and what you have to do to overcome it. But before we touch up on that, you made a really important point about personal trainers and what sometimes would happen in the personal training world. And this is also a stigma that I feel like turns people away from them when there's a lot of good personal trainers out there. But sometimes you get this stigma if let's say you're a young female or middle-aged female or whatever age you are, but you're apprehensive about approaching personal trainer just because of the stories that you hear, that you're just in it just to get in someone's pants, that you're in it just because, you know, you want to be near a pretty woman or you want to have that kind of power over that. What would you have to say to that? Because I know you as a person, that you're not like that at all, but I want to get an idea because I believe in your training and how it's helped me. And I'd like for you to talk about that a bit.
Based on what I've seen in the gym, is what you're saying. I feel that clients should be for starters, a lot more careful about what they look for when they purchase a package with a trainer, for lack of a better term. You should know what you're signing up for too. I know that this is a big thing about personal training, and it precludes a lot of women from going through with a package. The men's intentions, are they genuine or are they on a different level? And I do know of a couple of situations where they get personal with clients. I've heard about situations, and being a trainer and seeing clients with their trainers all the time. This is when I work for a gym. You start to notice a difference in their behavior because all trainers observe trainers to see what they're doing. They want to see what I was doing with my clients, but I want to see what wrong thing they're doing with their clients. Funny little pendulum, right? I thought it was.
It's a great way to observe that.
Right. So, but when I observe sometimes, in the beginning, sometimes you look at something, you're like, wow, I wish sometimes my client looked that serious when you're talking to them too. But sometimes it's not that. It could be something like attention. Because then you'll see maybe a couple of weeks in, being involved with sharing the same circle and the same equipment, you notice behaviors. You'll notice they're very distant from each other. Where'd that come from? You know what I'm saying? And that's just me being presumptuous. But then people talk in the gym and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. 2 and 2 is 4. That's why they're acting distant. You get it?
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, what would you say to someone who's getting into that? Not really what to look out for, but what would not raise a red flag for them, but you would advocate would raise a red flag for you that could lead to something that they wouldn't want?
Credibility. It's like looking for a five-star diner. You look online at credentials, right? Okay, same thing. If you think this person's a trainer and they look really good because they just look good, it doesn't mean they know what they're doing. They might got a couple of clients. You don't just flock with them. You ask a few people, you know about this guy, John? Have you trained with him? No. You know someone who has? Yeah, I do. Good reviews? Very good. And you try to accumulate more seeds of reaffirmation that he's good. I would say credibility.
That's a super intelligent response that I appreciate just hearing from that as far as a person, because it provides something that I don't know if I would have. I mean, of course you look into that for buying a car or like, hey, like, does this car run right? But I guess in a way you have to apply it in that fashion if you're looking out for certain red flags, because, okay, now this guy has a credible, not only resume, but now people that are surrounding him that he works around are telling you that, you know, he's a credible source and this and this and this.
He's doing, yeah. But the ultimate red flag is don't ask jaded sources.
That's Also very wary of, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
those around. Thank you for that answer. Now we can go back to
You're welcome.
talking about what we talked about last week, and you said something really interesting to me because I know that you love boxing and you have either have you coached it before or have you are you just really heavily involved in the sport?
I've done both. I had a little bit of an amateur upbringing, very little, a minor role in it, but I accrued so much knowledge over such a minor time. I was really good with my hands. I was quick. I was very elusive too. And I always had a reply or a counter reply for someone. So looking at that, you train a different way when you're young and people are training you to fight. They train to condition you to be powerful too. They don't train you to sculpt you. And I was training that way for a long time. When I hit about 19, 18 or 19, yeah, I remember following the wrong crowd and wanting to build big muscles because you think that's the way to go.
Absolutely.
You're young, you make mistakes, you're naive, still getting your feet wet. I went that route and I really liked the way it looked, much like any 19-year-old would versus wouldn't. Duh, right? And I said, I think I choose this because now I already know how to defend myself. Who's going to mess with me? You don't think on where this sport could take you in the next 20 years. You don't think about that. But you just think about how you feel in the moment. My point of this is that I regret sometimes putting on such a huge amount of muscle without taking advantage of building enough amount of muscle, but power and strength and training like an athlete and getting paid to knock people out. It's like an out of jail free card right there.
That is an absolute
Doesn't really matter.
free card.
They know what they're signing up for, right?
That's true. I mean, it is a huge sport, and I mean, I bring that up because you related it to going into a boxing match when you're trying to push negativity out of your inner circle, your vicinity, so that you can now bring that positivity back into your life, and relating it to fitness related stuff like overcoming a hurdle of just getting in there, getting out there, taking a walk, etc.
Yeah.
Comparing it to that was fascinating for me because I know that you had that little background, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that on the level for you, in order to make that happen, it has to be like a boxing match.
Yeah. Well, what happens is a person going to a boxing match, they're going into a battleground. So it's either they're going to potentially, God forbid, die or the opponent's going to die. It's not really going to happen. No one's going to die. It's the odds are low, but you bringing your soul into that ring and you having it either taken from you or you taking it from someone else. So all the adrenaline that it causes you to release, that's got to be motivating. It's adrenaline. You run on adrenaline. Cars run on engine, fuel, gas, right? So I use that mentality because I'm a real extremist in the gym. There's a part of me that comes across as unapproachable in the gym.
I've seen that too, which is you're such a personable guy when people get to see you and talk to you, but I can see the perception of that happening. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a societal thing that is brought upon looking a certain way. And I feel like it's wrong. But how does that make you feel? Does it ever put you in a negative rut when that
Not at
happens?
all. In the beginning, used to, because I know exactly where my heart, my intentions are.
In the beginning, how was that for you? What was happening?
What I could clearly recall is probably about 26, 27. It's when my muscles were starting to mutate. They were starting to get pretty pronounced, pretty big. And always had a more of a rougher outer shell. So when you combine the two, a muscle bound with a rough looking shell, people equal that to a problem or a bully or antisocial, arrogant, narcissistic. But the truth is that too, some people just don't believe what they see, and they're afraid to decode it, to talk a little deeper with it, to see if it's really that kind of person.
Yeah, I can relate to that on a different aspect from
So I'm used to it. That's what I'm saying.
right. You almost become null to it. You become so immobilized by it. You've had it happen so many times to you. It's just like another day in the neighborhood. And I can attest to that with myself in a different way because we always have this conversation where you feel like when people are in the gym, you're very unapproachable, but you're the most approachable guy when you talk to you. And I feel like people in the gym usually would approach me, but when I'm very involved in like, something that is,
Weight training.
yeah, like I have to do I don't know, like a very, very heavy squat that scares me, quite honestly, because the bar is really heavy. I'm wrapped and I know what I need to do.
It's a fear
There may not be
factor.
something there, yeah, and I'm afraid and I need to focus on that. And
Sure.
when I'm impeded by that, it destroys that focus and I can no longer go after that weight again. And so it's just interesting to me when you go into the gym and I've gotten past that negative part and you're in there. You have all these now forces coming outside to affect you as you are starting your
Correct.
process. And now you have to kind of nullify these things. And what I would have to say about that is that if you can remain constant, that you have gotten there already, you've already won. Now just keep going, keep continuing, because you control your own progress. You
Correct.
don't let someone else in there control your progress. You don't let any outside negative force, right? We've heard that line before, but we don't let those outside sources coming in and impede your progress, because now it's messing with your mental clarity.
Your connection.
Yeah, it destroys that. And I feel like that happens way too much. And I just needed to say that for that.
It does. It does. Something like that you have no control over, really, though. You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's
called headphones to me.
same for me.
It's called headphones.
Once I do that, I go in, I put on headphones. If I'm training with someone like you or someone on equal level, and I mean that in a way where you're just like what I was talking about before, you're right there with me.
In sync. Yeah.
You're in sync with me. And it's really important. And people don't quite understand that, but when you get to a level where you have done so much conditioning and training, it's like an athlete. I would compare it playing in the NBA, and he has someone from college now working with him. You have to kind of be on that NBA level to match that intensity, because it's a different ball game, quite literally. And so when I'm training with someone like you, I need to have someone with that same matching intensity, or else it just doesn't work.
Yeah, because you're mentally porting into each other too.
Yeah.
So if you're porting into a person 100% and they're going 50%, it strips you of energy. That's what it does. You got to create an overdrive where you got to put 100% into them, and if they feel it and they're genuinely putting the same amount of energy, they reciprocate it back and forth.
Yeah, most definitely.
To me, my workout partner Dave have when we train once in a blue. We still train, but once in a blue, we got a powerful connection coming in the gym. We know it's a task. We already know we're not people that when we spot each other, our eyes are gallivanting all over the place. We're locked in and we're honed in on exactly why we came here in the first place to train. And you got to see, man, it creates like this harness of energy, like this circle of energy. I don't know where there's no one in our area, like 20 people. I'm out of 30 seconds, all doing strange things too. Yeah.
We even touched up on that about
Yeah, the
why
antics.
people do those
Yeah.
things. And it's, a lot of the insecurities come out. And I can't even say
okay.
that it hasn't happened to me in my world, because I've always embraced learning. I've always embraced learning. And if I'm wrong, I admit that, because there's a humility with it. You gain so much more knowledge back from that, rather than just repressing it and saying, I know everything. But I also can take that back to the other coin, where I've seen kids in there, and I say kids, but like early teens in the gym. And there's like maybe 5 or 6 of them, and I've seen them just go over and test weights out and chat with their friends, and they're not doing the workouts correctly, but I look at that and I'm inspired by that kind of a thing too, because we have one coin where there's us in there, where there's like a different aura with training, because we only know one way to go. When you compete, you only know one way to go. For yourself, you only know one way to go.
0 to 100, right?
Absolutely.
0 all the way to 100.
For me, it can never be middle ground. It's either I'm in 100 or I'm out completely. I can never be 50-50 with anything.
Yeah.
And, it just shows that level of dedication. But even for seeing these teenagers in there, early teenagers, I'm so stricken by that, because I say, wow, that's such a cool thing. Who cares if you don't know what you're doing, right? Who cares if you're learning, but you're in there collectively.
Exposure.
You're having a good time, right? You're understanding what different weights are. And you know what? Those are the people I find that will come over and ask questions.
and become the most productive down the
And
road.
absolutely, they become the most productive because they want to learn.
Exposure.
And that's the main thing is you nailed it. Exposure, exposing yourself to these circumstances, getting out there. I really feel like pushes the mental focus through it, helps get the mindset in the right way because you don't have to go there and know what you're doing all the time. Nobody's going to know what you're doing the first time. It's okay to ask, but it's about asking the people with the right intentions. And how you find that is what we opened with. Even finding a personal trainer is just go by credibility, or come in with a friend, or go out there and say I'm going to go where at a time when it's really dead, and I'm just going to ask one of the workers that's working, can you show me these machines, please? That's all it takes. You don't have to feel embarrassed, and I would urge people to not feel embarrassed because I was once there. Big John was once there.
Not many people are like that though.
No, they're not. I feel like pushing that out there is a great way to engage in any type of outdoor activity or indoor activity just for 30 minutes a day. That's all you've got to do. It really is going to provide such a better foundation for yourself. It's going to promote that positivity and positive energy. And it really did help push me through depression. It really helped me. And even for you yourself, being able to get in there and be active stimulates scientifically, like we said, promotes positive endorphins.
Serotonin, yeah.
Now, going on that topic of positive effects of endorphins, okay?
Wow.
How do you feel about that? And where did you actually find out for yourself, like, hey, this is working, it's real? People can tell you all the time, yeah, you go here, you're going to release positive endorphins. What is an endorphin?
It's a feel good chemical messenger sent from your brain when you're doing something in a positive mood. When you're doing something your brain becomes mind altered. You have euphoria.
Of course.
Of course, it puts
I
you in a
think we
state
all
of
have at some point.
euphoria. Your brain starts mimicking these feelings of chemical messengers called dopamine and endorphin. Those are neurodrive factors or nootropics. And they just create a total ease of just of certainty in your body where you just feel that good. It's like a high you're always chasing in the gym, but it's a high that could be very underappreciated too by not going to the gym, thinking, I went yesterday. I'll not go today. I'll recover. And they don't see how they are until maybe they're biting their nails. If you're like me, what is while you're watching TV, you're like, why am I doing this? You can see my anatomy. I know my mother feeds me at home. What's going on? Right?
Why am I eating
It's
my
like
hands?
feeding time at the zoo, my thumb. But I realized that's got to be coming from some nervous habit. What's invoking that? I know he's not in the gym. You go in the gym, you're not gnawing on your fingers. You understand? And
Yeah.
that is a sign that you need to be in the gym, right? It's a reminder.
Yeah, I've noticed myself when I went through that process and I said, okay, like how do I break out of this? And I would sit at home and it was an unnatural thing for me, but it became so natural because it became an inadvertent habit. It just kept progressing
What's
into
that? Which
just
one?
waking up and getting a bite to eat, sitting there, maybe reading something, maybe watching TV, I don't know, listening to a podcast, right?
You're saying a routine,
A routine that wasn't
detrimental.
what my routine should be to create positive habits for
Oh, I see where
myself.
you're going with this. Okay.
It was a routine for me where
When you were working out.
when I wasn't working out, I was just in a routine where I was not being productive to the point where I would feel good during the day. I could do whatever I needed to do, and that's when I figured out there was a missing piece component. What was it? You
Gotcha.
help expose it,
Yeah.
and until now, it becomes part of you. But I feel like when you're going in there now, and I go back in the gym, I feel good about myself. I was like, okay, that was the missing component because now I'm not at home, like you were saying, biting my nails. Now I'm not at home,
In touch with your problems,
yeah,
your
watching
issues.
TV for like, several hours. And I love TV, but now I'm making a habit to not turn the TV on until it's like 5 or 6 p.m. at least,
Yeah.
because there's so much production you can do throughout the day. Whether you're working from home, okay, you're working 9 to 5, that's not going to happen anyways. You're not going to turn on the TV. When you get home, you want to relax. But I guarantee you, I was working 12 to 16-hour days on a graveyard shift, okay, at hotels. And I said to myself, how am I going to include fitness in my routine again? Because I know it needs to be a component. I'm coming home in the morning. I'm extremely exhausted. I leave before I go. I'm still extremely exhausted. Okay. And I have a home life I need to take care of. Then I have the work. Then I have to worry about taking care of monotonous tasks like, okay, doing laundry, making food, this kind of stuff. But I can't tell you the things that saved me were getting in the gym either before I went there or right when I came out, because I knew that my mind was stimulated. I knew I had that energy, and I said, go and do it now because I'm not going to want to do it later.
No.
And that's all it takes for a 9-to-5er. That's all it takes, because I've been there for over 2 years continuously. And now that I'm in a different state, I have different things going on, different work. I'm allowed different allotted times that work for me. I personally like getting in there at like 10 o'clock,
Me too.
Maybe 9 o'clock if I'm feeling really good.
9 and 11 is my spot.
It feels great. If I was doing contests and I had no choice, I would get in there at 7, but it's still a bit early for me. I need those 2 meals in, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if the 9-to-5ers, the everyday people that want to try this out, want to get into just being active, you don't need a full diet plan yet. You don't need a whole progressive tasks, expert routine to get in there and go work out. Just go in there, get yourself outside, walk, run for 30 minutes, do at least 30 minutes, or get involved in the gym for 30 minutes. Check out a machine. Stay on one machine for all you care for 30 minutes. Test it out. At least you're out there and getting active, and it will work for you. It'll promote positivity.
Absolutely.
It'll push you through the next phases, and it'll give you that energy. And you'll get better sleep. I promise you that one.
Well, those are both linked very closely.
Yeah, they are.
It's also a sign of insomnia, low magnesium levels too. A lot of people don't understand magnesium, its full effect. One thing also, speaking of magnesium, I want to talk about was muscles and what they're composed of. Muscles are composed of all different percentages. Protein, one might say 14, one might say 17%. Carbohydrates, whatever it is, 13, 14. But then there's water. It conflicts between 70, 71, 72, or
I've heard
sometimes
a lot of
even
different numbers. They're basically like on 75,
69, 68. Like so your muscle, having said all that, your muscles comprise of mostly water, right? Electrolytes, sodium, magnesium, potassium. Where am I going with this? After your workout, don't be so quick to look for, I gotta have protein. And I'm not trying to destroy what goes on for gyms and how they make money. That's not at all. This is educational, not just motivational.
You actually, when you continue saying this, because I'm already linked with you right now.
Yeah.
Because
I've spoken to you about
this has helped me, the top component that has helped me out. Now go
on. So what John is talking about, how I've actually changed things and helped him maximize his potential even more on top of the gains he was making already before he knew this little big secret, was, all right, so I turned him on to some water, some hydrated water with a little pink salt. Why pink salt? What's in the pink salt? Minerals. What is the muscle mostly? Water and minerals, right? Electrolytes. So John, when I turned that on to you, what's the first thing you noticed that was better or for worse? What was it?
Honestly, it gave me more of that, I don't know, electrolytes. It replenished all the electrolytes in my body that I had lost. I felt like I wasn't as thirsty.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
You felt hydrated.
Yeah, because as you're working out, you do get that dehydration, you get that lactic acid buildup and stuff, and that just basically means you had a good quote unquote pump.
Yeah.
But I felt, I don't know how I explain. I felt like lighter. I felt like I had more energy, if that makes sense.
Did you feel fuller too?
I did feel full, not like how a protein or a meal would make me full, but my body was satiated.
You nail it. You're giving your body what it needed. It needed electrolytes.
Yeah. And that's something I didn't know. I mean,
because they're mostly
as the most important thing aside from protein.
Absolutely. This whole window of opportunity. I got to get home. I got protein. Window of opportunity. Here's your window of opportunity. There's no window of opportunity, man. You got like 2 hours or something. Some people arguably say 24 hours. Don't worry about that, man.
Yeah, and that can be another debilitating factor going back on that mental health track of like, oh, I didn't get my meal in at the right time. Now I feel like the rest of my workout of my days gone to shit because I didn't have this at the right time. It's okay,
Just make
you
sure you
know?
have amino acids
Yeah.
and branch chain amino
Yeah, and
acids.
it's a simple thing that you can carry. It's inexpensive. You can go buy it
It's,
and you just take that and you'll be fine. Go home and eat something. Don't worry about, crushing crushing a protein shake. I'm a culprit of it too, guys. Listen, I go after the gym and I actually have half the electrolytes, but I crush the protein shake like everyone else. But at the same time, it's like if I don't have that, it's okay. You just get the minerals in your body, which is what your body actually needs, and
we
then go home and eat something.
we also know some people are not going to do it because a lot of people have a fear of knowing what kind of powder to buy, electrolyte powder. And let's face it, most people are not going to have pink salt and water.
Yes.
Right. So here's a really cool thing to do. This is what I do from time to time, probably once a week. Watermelons, right? People hear that, they hear high in sugar, right? They get scared of it. Should I have it? Too much sugar? Is it too many calories? Well, it's high in sugar, but it's also loaded with magnesium and potassium. What are minerals? What's electrolyte powder? All of these things above magnesium, sodium, potassium. So, what I do once a week, I put half a watermelon in a blender. I take the seeds out
It's actually delicious. I've done it.
in the blender, right?
Very healthy.
Yes. And I add a banana too. So in case the magnesium is higher in the watermelon than the actual banana, there's a balanced ratio of potassium and magnesium. I also put a scoop, that's it, of protein powder in there. Whey isolate, maybe I'll put in grass-fed whey. Whatever I have, which is always a reputable thing. It's always a reputable source. And right there, you got three things. You got the conversion amino acids from the protein powder, right? Number two, you got the minerals packed in with the watermelon, right? And then the banana with the potassium. And you got the sugar from the watermelon. What is that going to do? That acts like an insulin transporter. It's sugar.
You know
The
what I love about all this
pancreas, the
too?
pancreas goes, can I borrow some insulin, please? For what? To drive all these nutrients to the muscle cells. How much you need? We're running on a highway. You figure it out. So they give him excess. There you go. And the muscles get fuller. This is for people looking to get bigger, stronger.
And it's super.
I
It's
wouldn't
it's
really do that.
natural. That's what I love about it. It's stuff that's healthy for you. You can buy at the grocery store. It's not expensive, and it's going to be providing the nutrients that you need for yourself.
Here's another way around it too. It's interesting. Get a half an avocado, crush it up in a blender, whey protein vanilla powder, 20 grams, a little almond milk, unsweetened. You got enough sugar in there already. And a banana. Same thing. What's the avocado? Loaded with potassium, magnesium. What's the banana? Loaded with potassium. Don't knock it till you try it. It's really good. You could take it a step further, maybe, and you could probably put like a couple of berries in there, increase the fiber. But last I checked, avocados are high in fiber too. So
I love all these like little recipe ideas, and I see how excited you get. And I want to ask you a question. What would Big John do if he didn't have the gym? If that kid at 9 didn't pick up that weight bench and literally drag it home on his back, okay, what would that guy be doing right now if you didn't have something like that?
I don't even know. I can't think of anything good though. I
So do you
don't
feel
know.
like it
I
actually?
don't
Do you
know.
feel like the gym helped save you in a way too?
Wait a minute. Actually, what am I saying? Probably baseball player. Probably baseball, some kind of sport. That's what I would do. I would see myself training like an athlete, more like maybe a fighter or something like that. But luckily, weight training got a hold of me quick.
Yeah, I think that's.
Thankful, thank you to Bruce Banner, the Hulk.
Thank you, Lou Ferrigno.
It's the one
You can come by if you need to.
that was my motivating
No,
factor.
he was a big motivating factor. I'm me and you are big fans of Pumping Iron and that whole era. And I used to love it because my first training coach when I was doing contests, um, he would also compete in the golden era. His name is Tony Pandolfo, and he passed quite a while ago. But he was such a fantastic man because he really pushed me in this and advocated for that positivity for me in my life. And he really, really helped push, the fitness and bodybuilding in the gym. And I don't know where I would be without it. I would hate to say that I would say that it wouldn't be something good either, just because of the nature of the neighborhood that you grew up in. And yeah, people say you grow up in wherever it is, like Bensonhurst, or I grew up downtown Brooklyn, or even for you, Big John, you grew up in Bensonhurst area, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, there's good and bad parts of all neighborhoods. I'm not saying the neighborhoods were bad, or it's just the people that you're surrounding yourself with could be really bad. And
Absolutely.
I feel like
Could be even bad in a good area, a good
absolutely,
neighborhood.
absolutely, it looked pretty on the outside, but on the inside, it may not be as great from where you are and your perspective is. And that's a dangerous thing because it's deceiving.
Very deceiving.
And you can go out and feel like these things are working for you, but if you're in that kind of a rut and there isn't an after school program, I would say I would encourage you guys to just get out there and do something that is going to be positive, where maybe it is playing baseball, maybe it is, if you're not involved in sports at all, go for a walk at the park. You know,
Go
that really helped
hiking.
me out, especially recently. And
Yeah.
now that it's coming down to like winter or fall time,
Hiking.
I say to myself, let me maybe go do a hike, or I'll do a motorcycle ride or something like that. But if I don't have something like this, I'll get into a gym.
Yeah.
I'll do a quick workout or something. Even a nice brisk walk in the cold with with a jacket on, or a couple of jackets
I
on,
could see
depending on you.
myself racing cars. I think if I didn't have weight training, now I'm thinking about that on a deep. It's still sitting in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I answered that question thoroughly. That's why it's bothering
No,
me.
it's something that is, it's a weighty and provides a lot of thought. How would you know? The reason why I asked it too is because I feel like it wouldn't matter what you would or wouldn't be doing if you weren't in the gym. You just know that by being active, it did help your mental state, and you need to
Tremendously.
continue doing that in some fashion.
Yes,
And same thing
absolutely.
for myself, where even if it wasn't the gym, it needs to be in some capacity, because I know that's my trigger. I know that's going to create a positive space for myself.
You know, it also works for me. If I don't work out, at least I have to be distracted with clients because I'm putting work into them.
Mm.
That's endorphin release too. The next day of progression with a client. When they make progression, you make progression. When they win, you win. You see? So
Yeah,
that's
it's a that's what I love about this kind of stuff. I feel like any type of athletic sport, and why I think I was so drawn to it, is because there's a camaraderie factor, but it's also a gratifying thing of, like just what you're saying, going back and giving something back to your clients, and you knew that you changed their life or their day.
oh yeah.
You know that they can carry these things. I know for me, I carry it with me for life. I'm like your human sponge. I carry everything that you say, and I lock it in a little base,
So it
even
makes you
if
better, right?
it totally makes me better. No matter
I'd
where
lock
I
that
am.
in too if it made me better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's reciprocated.
You know what's even twice the amount of endorphin release? When you got the clients to help, compounded with a great training day for yourself. So if I had an hour of training,
Yeah.
tearing my body apart, an hour and a half recovery, 4 or 5 clients straight, making progress, you go home like you won the day. That's my definition, at least. It's all how you feel to attain that. That's what does it for me.
Right. I mean, even feeling accomplished. I remember I just did a recent leg workout, and I had gotten home the same day, and I felt like, I felt like someone had taken a hammer and hammered my bones down. It sounds really extreme,
No,
but
I can relate to it though.
I was so broken apart because I just ripped things apart for 30 minutes, but it was only 30 minutes.
But you know where that
And
comes
I
from?
felt amazing afterwards, even though I was, in the room, like, thank God this is over now. I can, let me just please, and I could just sit down and watch TV and have a cup of tea or something, have a nice meal. And I felt, even though I was in pain in a good way, I felt I accomplished something. And that was the endorphin release for me. That was great for the day.
Absolutely. Why do you think that happened?
I feel it happened that way for myself. I don't know. Maybe I go in there and it stimulates something for me once I enter the gym. It makes me feel like I'm, and I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I might very soon. Who knows? But it makes me feel like I want to get back on the stage again.
Well, what do you
It
think?
activates something in my brain where it's like, okay, it's go time.
Okay, so
Let's challenge myself again. Let's get to this level again.
that's
I need to make it hard.
that's motivational. How about physiologically?
Yeah.
What's going on that when you first go in there, you feel like there's something taking a bat to your joints, a
Yes.
hammer to your joints, right? Like a mallet. And what happens when you just suddenly feel fine after that? What do you think that is?
It has to be recovery.
It is.
What kind of recovery were you thinking of? Because I'm thinking of it in a different
Well,
way where it's like, oh yeah, you take your nutrients, your macronutrients, and you'll
it's
eventually over time you'll feel
it's
recovered.
not just what I think; it's what I really believe is true. So I think when you feel that first like your body's like a Harley on a bad piece of road, everything hurts.
Yeah.
Every time you bump and you hit, you feel in your gum line. It's that bad. Is your body getting that tight over that time you probably took off? And that's a sign of the muscles all gunked up, you know, all gunked up, all tight. Probably hadn't have much movement.
Well, that's what you said when you go in there. You're like, John, just go and foam roll your calf. I went, all right.
Yeah.
And it was like the most incredible pain
Oh, it's
I've ever
excruciating.
felt in my life. I mean,
Horrible.
it was really bad, and I have tattoos, and it was really bad. But it was just like, okay, but it felt amazing afterwards because you're right. I got that gunk out.
I was rolling my calf one time on the seated calf, the peg that holds the plates.
That's where I did it on.
So you press on the tight muscle just beneath it by the insertion, and you slowly push your way into it, and you roll. Sweat was going down the crack of my ass. I'm not even lying.
It's like a
Because you're
cold sweat. It's
using,
like, God,
you do
help
know,
me.
you probably know how many calories you're expending just from grinding all that pain. I remember on my way to start my workout, one of my friends goes, "What are you doing? Arms or something? Everything's sweating." I'm like, no, you're looking at my back. It's sweating from bending down and foam rolling my calves. He's like, how's that an exercise? It was from my back. It was sweat pulling down into the crack of my ass. What do you think?
Yeah, like you should try it out. I have such a fun time chatting with these conversations with you because I feel like we've talked at length with this kind of stuff over the phone, and just putting it on something like this medium or making it active for people to engage in and viewers to engage in and comment and stuff. It's really, I don't know. It makes me feel like uh, I'm happy about being able to give back like that. I'm happy that we're able to use this as a source of promoting whatever positive energy you can. And I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, we love people watching because we feel like you feel like when you're done with the client,
Yeah.
you've accomplished that part of yourself and you've given that to everyone. So I hope when everyone does watch this, know that we are putting ourselves fully out there with almost no filter in I guess YouTube terms or et cetera, et cetera. But you know what I mean. We're being as honest as we possibly can, and I love doing this with you. But I would like for you to,
What Johnny's
yeah,
also saying, for those who don't understand, is called gratitude. So he's saying that
absolutely,
for those out there who, have probably have not given as much to us in return, and we will out, it inspired us to go train on our own and make ourselves strong. Well, we didn't have no one to do that for us, but it's it's been so good to us training hard, fitness, that we look a lot better than most people should at our ages too. We feel like we want to give something back, like we owe someone something. The sport. And how am I going to pay the sport? I can't make a check payable to the sport. Who is it? It's you people.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the main thing is that we appreciate all this stuff and we appreciate you guys and hopefully you love more of the content and you'll want to see more from us. But I also would love for you to take us out of this segment. And if you want to say something to the audience about what positive things have inspired you to push through, I'll let you leave us off with that.
Push me through what?
Push you through a negative impact in your life in order to make it something positive that you've carried with you. It could be something gym related. It could be something that you did today. Could be any little tiny thing that would help someone out there if they're struggling with that.
Yeah, I know exactly what I'll say. It's true. I'm going to school part time. Haven't been vaccinated, so they won't let me on campus. So I'm doing school through Zoom. And sometimes I forget. A lot of people tell me, how's it feel going back to school with them 19-year-olds? This is what do you mean? Elaborate. They go, does it feel weird, like a little intimidating? And I said, they should be intimidated by what I know. So I'm going in for physical therapy assistant. You know what that means? Oh, what does that mean? It sounds like English, but I don't understand it. It means that I already have an understanding of anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology. So they should look out for me. Plus, I'm going through Zoom anyway because I wasn't vaccinated. So how are they going to be around there to be threatened? Okay, sure enough, I'm like, wow, I thought I was taking it personal. I thought my professor didn't like me. She's pounding me into the pavement with homework so much, I'm getting overwhelmed. So I said to myself, I can't still train at the same level. Plus, I got clients I got to cater to. By the time I get to this Zoom thing, I'm working on 1.5 brain cells. So I got overwhelmed. And for days, I said, I got to live in the library where I could go on a laptop. I don't use a laptop. I'm old school. So to do homework. So for 3 days, I'm sitting there drinking all these caffeinated beverages to keep my attention span high and strong. But in the interim, I ran into a rut. I didn't spend much time in the gym other than my clients. So one day I just says, you know what? Fuck this. I seen it in my behavior, how I was treating people. Inadvertently, of course. I says, this is not my character. Usually I talk more. Maybe I'm being overly critical of something I shouldn't be. Maybe there's something wrong with me. So I got to get back in the gym. So it's a mental check-in for me. The same way I check myself in the gym for mental well-being. So it goes hand in hand. So it was school. Had a hard time balancing homework being thrown at me 98 miles an hour, you know?
Yeah, man, I think that's a great way to end it off. And we love you guys. And again, this is I'm John Kioskarides, the one half of the Fitness Training Gain podcast with my brother here, John.
I'm John DePaulo.
And you can follow me, of course, on Instagram at John_Kioskarides. You can also follow Training Gain Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Patreon will be coming, as well as our merchandise store. But you can get all these kind of cool little goodies, and we're putting our heart into it. So we hope you enjoy it, and you don't have to, apply for a lot. You just, if you want to pay $1, that's all you have to do. It's fine with us, because we're gonna give you some cool content, cool goodies.
Pretty cheap for real, genuine advice.
Yeah, absolutely. But we hope to see you all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you then.